about clothing moths. So a lot of my yarn is in the freezer. I'm very sad. I am going to make at least 5, but hopefully 8 dildoking stockings. And I hope they'll be appreciated. I don't know how successful I'm going to be. I guess I'm going to try and make the pattern up myself. For those of you who don't live in Germany, or maybe just Berlin in Germany, Dildoking is a company that makes sex toys, and they have quite an aggressive marketing campaign. Massive Dildoking posters all over the city. I have no idea what to do with this before because it's so offensively yellow. Yeah, so plans for making this pattern involve drawing it up. Moths have eaten my clothes. Fuck 2020. This is the plan for the Dildoking, well, the Dildoking writing, and this is the Fair Isle design for the crown. Don't think I have anything else to say really. So it is the next day. I've done a little test patch. So this Dildoking lettering, it's a bit thinner than the actual logo of Dildoking, and it's looking, very 8-bit, which makes sense because it's Fair Isle color work. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the drawing board with the lettering and figure out how that goes. But if I can just get the aura right, that would be quite nice.
Later, in the void.
So I finished the test for the Dildoking penis crown and I'm pretty happy with it. I really like how the testicles came out, I like how this middle shaft came out, but there's a few things I'm not pleased with. So what I didn't really like was that the very tip of this center shaft has got like a little point on it. It just looks a bit wrong. So what I intend to do is cut that the very tip off, but then elongate the mushroom head by adding a stitch on either side. And I intend on doing the same on the other sort of outer penis prongs. I'm not a fan of how when I change the direction of it, you get this sort of step effect. I have no idea how to fix this, so I think I'm just gonna have to live with it. I have worked out more lettering designs. Honestly, I just spent yesterday writing Dildoking over and over and over again on various pieces of paper, and I think I've gotten to a point where I'm happy enough with the lettering. I'm once again going to test it just in case I need to change it again, but I'm hoping that it will be okay. It's not something I care all that much about typography, but one of the people I'm giving this to really does care. It would be a nice little nod if I made an effort to try and get the logo right. Here is what I know about typography now. Hello, and yes, this is my Dildoking poster. I also have a second Dildoking poster. So this is the actual Dildoking logo. I spent an embarrassingly long time finding out its font. It is a grotesque sans serif non-geometric font with no thick thin transitions. This means that there are no little flourishes coming off of any of the right angles of the letter. The O is not a perfect circle, and the letters are at equal widths the entire way around. The closest I had found was Digi Grotesque TMN Condensed Bold, but that font had an L that was proportionally as wide as the D and the O. I then went on to Reddit and asked, and was informed that it was 20th Century Pro Extra Bold Condensed. This was released by the Monotype Corporation. Now these kind of fonts, while released in the late 1920s, started gaining popularity post-World War II and the 1960s, featuring a lot in print media and movie posters. A similar style of font was used, for instance, in the title for Jaws, released in 1975. The construction and colour scheme actually remind me a lot of Jurassic Park, but I think that this is coincidental, as I do hope that life does not find a way. Now, a number of very interesting things were happening post-war Germany, and 1961 was when the Berlin Wall was constructed, and this is very GDR-esque. So I can maybe imagine that Dildoking using this style of lettering was both a callback and a fuck you to these times. But this is all theory. The black and yellow branding, while very eye-catching, is also the exact same branding as Deutsche Post. And the splash of red that appears in a number of their advertisements and all over their website is really quite evocative of the German flag and therefore Germany in general. Dildo King was set up in 2004. It was important to me to be as accurate as I could with the actual font style of the Dildo King logo, as I'm not adding the little extra outline around the lettering, and spoiler alert, I will end up splitting up the logo into the words dildo and king. Knitting has its limitations and so do I. I seem to accidentally knit a little serif on the K and was unable to get a slant at the end of the top curve on the G. So yesterday I managed to finish off the Dildo King and these sort of thicker lettering. I think that worked a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this onto a stitch marker. I'll then use these needles and start making an actual Dildo King stocking. Another thing about this is I have to do 7 of these in basically just a month. So this I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew. My initial plan was to make a stocking that would have the full word Dildo King on either side, followed by a small ring of penis crowns, and then the word Dildo King again, before doing the heel, foot and toe sections, each bit with a small checkered pattern. With that in mind, I cast on and knit 120 stitches, and after knitting a few rounds, realised that it would be a fucking enormous stocking and there would be no way I would have enough yarn, let alone time, to make 8 of them. I delayed ripping it out and starting again because I really don't like casting on and was annoyed that my efforts would be wasted, but eventually came to my senses and started on a new design, one that would be significantly smaller and coincidentally far less effort. This new design would have the word dildo, followed by a penis crown and then the word king. This would be done on both sides of the stock, mostly to help me catch the floats in the back, and because I know that time doesn't seem to be behaving correctly in 2020, I decided on a plain foot and toe section. I didn't think that this extra simplicity would disappoint the recipients of these stockings, because the stockings were absolutely not asked for and may just become an obligation to the giftees.
A lot of boring math later.
So I had realised that my desired circumference was 80 stitches. However, 2 times the word dildo, the section that required the most stitches, only needed 56 stitches. This left 12 stitches on either side totally blank. I had come up with a few designs to fill this section and, as it was Christmas, had settled on this star pattern. Having knitted it up, I realised I didn't like it as it looked more like a spider than a star to me, and so scrapped the idea and decided that just a dot in the middle would suffice. However, I did really like the idea of trying to make the stocking Christmassy, so the sections in between the penis crown got this sort of twinkly design. The sections in between the word king got more dots. A few days have passed. You may be able to tell from the calendar above my head that it's now December. I have managed to do both dildo, crown and the king. Well, that's not really both, but I've done it. And I'm about to start on the short row heel. Problem is I've knitted like 3 socks in my life, not 3 pairs of socks, just 3 socks. And I've forgotten how to do a short row heel, so I'm going to be spending a little bit of time watching other people on YouTube make short row heels, and then I will make a short row heel. As it turns out, short row heels were very easy to relearn, and a link to the video that I use is in the description below, as well as more exact instructions on what I did to create the heel. The very fancy camera that my sister has lent me, and I am extremely grateful for, sadly doesn't have autofocus, so for me to try my best to not make shots blurry, I have to do this thing with Jeff Goldblum's face and just try and get him as focused as much as possible, and then hopefully that's where I'm going to sit. So yeah, that is how I set up shots. So I've gotten this far with the first sock. I'm going to do a few more rounds of the foot and then I will do the toe part. As the sock would not actually be worn, instead of doing a more normal and comfier toe decrease, I split the toe section into 5 equal parts and decreased by knitting the last 2 stitches on each part together to create a rounded swirly star effect on the toe. Exact instructions can be found in the description below. After finishing the toe, I wove in all the ends, ripped out the trial swatch, and knit a small band to hang the stocking from. I then repeated the entire process again. So as you can see, I've managed to make 2 of them. There's a third on the needles and I'm hoping that will get done fairly soon. So now time for my opinion. I love them. I really like how Christmassy they are. I like how close I managed to get this to the actual Dildo King logo. I am so sad that the ones hanging up aren't for me and that I probably won't have enough time for before Christmas to make myself and Tom a pair of stockings. You know, that's annoying. In terms of things I'm not the biggest fan of, I'm not the biggest fan of how, I guess, the K turned out. I'm aware that the tension throughout the colourwork is probably not the most even, but I don't really mind. I'm probably going to improve as I knit more stockings, so whoever gets the first few stockings, sorry. I also want to say that designing them took way longer than I thought it would. There were many false starts, many times that I thought I knew what I was planning to do and had to restart them. The first time I even started the swatch, I ended up writing all the letters backwards, so I had to, you know, restart that. But fortunately, knitting them seems to be taking a lot less time than I expected, and I think that's a more important one. I also really enjoyed the process of designing it, even with all of the mistakes I was making and the amount of times I had to restart it. I think it was very helpful that when I was designing it, though, that it came off of a pre-existing logo. I'm not totally sure how much I would have enjoyed it if I had to come up with everything from scratch. Now, I don't know how much this needs to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. As far as I know, Dildo King is very much unaware that I am doing this and is absolutely not sponsoring me. So, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram if you want, it's here somewhere. I'm hoping to make the colourwork patterns available in the description below, but if I don't manage to get round to it, they are in the video, and by all means, please just pause and screenshot. You can have them, they're free. I don't think I have anything more to say on this, and I do have a lot more stockings to knit, so bye!